study and go and give these people drugs and see how many of them have flashbacks. We really have to rely just on sort of anecdotal and self-reports. But that aside, some of the results that I've seen from my research on the gene expression, actually, the part of the brain that I've been looking at is the prefrontal cortex, and that's the thinking part of the brain where most of the cognitive processes occur. And in imaging studies using hallucinogenic drugs, that's part of the brain that lights up. So I think that's probably the more relevant area of the brain to look at. And the genes that I'm seeing expressed, surprisingly, I don't see that many that are changed in gene expression, but the ones that I do see have a common theme of all being involved in synaptic plasticity, which is primarily the process of learning and memory. So just based on what I've seen, taking LSD induces these learning and memory drugs, which really change how the cells communicate with each other. So that all could be related.
This is KMO, your host on Psychonautica, and that was Dr. Charles Nichols of Louisiana State University. He is a researcher into LSD and its effects on the brain, and I am no expert in the field, but it sounded at the end there as if Dr. Nichols were suggesting that taking LSD would enhance synaptic plasticity, which, again, I'm no expert, but that sounds like a good thing. We're just about out of time here, but in these last few minutes, Max, if you would, give us your overall impressions of the interview you just heard.
I think, as a general comment about the whole interview, is it really does highlight very nicely the profound kind of discontent between the scientific mind state and the psychedelic experience and psychedelic drugs. The fact that it's a constant issue. The fact that in 1967 all this research was made illegal, it was all halted, and now it's practically impossible to carry out this research. And yet the people who are really into psychedelics in the kind of underworld, the underground, the people that appreciate it on a spiritual level tend to think it's of absolute primary importance for the human race. And it's interesting that the kind of materialist scientific viewpoint thinks that science is the most important thing for the human race, the thing that is all going to save us. So it's interesting to see the conflict between, and this man Charles, he seems to stand in between the two worlds. He's trying to bring the psychedelics into the scientific mindset, but still, I mean, as a comment about everything he said, a lot of the things he was saying were, this is still a mystery, like how LSD can be so potent, be so effective in such small doses is still a mystery. And I think any attempt to talk about these drugs on a physical scientific level is always going to have a very great difficulty making any sense to anyone who's interested in psychedelics from the point of view of what it does to consciousness. Because, something Terence McKenna often said is that it almost seems as if science denies that consciousness even exists at all. The materialist viewpoint doesn't have a space in it for consciousness or purpose or anything like that. So I look forward to the future. I look forward to seeing how the scientific community is going to deal with this, and I hope that it does, and I hope people like Charles can make that happen. Talking about the conflict between science and psychedelica. You mentioned Tim Leary. That was very interesting. On the one hand, there's the argument that his reckless behavior stopped the scientific research being done into LSD because it was made illegal. On the other hand, I think his reckless behavior introduced many millions of ordinary folk who don't know about science to the psychedelic experience, who might not have otherwise had it. So Tim Leary's kind of a double-sided coin, and in general there is this profound discontent between the world of psychedelica and the world of science, because it would seem that some of the revelations of the psychedelic experience seem to undermine the initial premises of science in the first place. And it's very interesting in an interview with someone like Charles Nichols, where he seems to be the person that stands in between the two worlds. On the one hand, he's researching psychedelics. On the other hand, he's a respected scientist. So hopefully he'll be able to bring a bit more of the psychedelic influence into the scientific community, because I think it sorely needs it at the moment.